or the banks aren't going to allow this, people say. The Federal Reserve isn't going to let this happen. It's going to take away their power. Guys, they already let it happen. Coinbase, the largest exchange in the United States, is heavily regulated. In Oregon, up until recently, I couldn't use Gemini, a great Bitcoin exchange, because it's regulated. It's heavily regulated. Coinbase, the largest exchange, is FDIC insured. It's massively regulated. Just no one went on to the television and openly said to you guys, because that would be a bad power move on their end. No one admitted at the U.S. government or at the banks to the U.S. public and the world, hey, we can't be left behind by this powerful force, this blockchain technology that's branding is being dominated by Bitcoin. We can't let the world take over. And so we're regulating this behind the scenes, and we're all in. Like, they can't say that because then they can't do the little power plays. So it's obvious, though. A Coinbase would not be FDIC insured, which protects your money in there, by a U.S. government backing. If it's not highly regulated, it's the most regulated thing in the world, right? I mean, it's as regulated as anything. Is there going to be a lot more regulation? Of course. Okay, so I'm assuming you guys either already know this or can accept and see enough to know that it's probably going to keep going up. If not, you can get that information elsewhere so we can stay focused today on how to grow more Bitcoin, how to get more Bitcoin, because as it goes up, it's harder and harder for you to get, right? You can't buy it unless you sell your house or do something crazy. And that's what I was looking at. By the time I figured it out, I was like, oh no, I don't have enough Bitcoin. Dang it. Did I miss another extraordinary opportunity again because I didn't listen to peers in 2011 that were telling me to get it? And I was like, I got to get Bitcoin. I got to get Bitcoin. I get really obsessive compulsive when I want to do something. And I just kept asking the question. I don't know how many of you read the book Think and Grow Rich by Napoleon Hill, but he teaches you how to get laser focused to manifest what you want. And I'm just like, okay, how do I grow Bitcoin? How do I generate Bitcoin? I can't buy that much. So how do I start with a tiny amount and grow it? And I started finding the answer to that question, and that led me to this. So that's what I'm going to be talking about, how to grow and gather. How can the average person that doesn't have millions of dollars get a ton of Bitcoin before this thing massively goes up? That's what today is about. So that, as experts are predicting, when Bitcoin's at $40,000 in 2018 or $1 million in 2020 or wherever it ends up, you got a lot of it. And a lot of you are like, well, I already got Bitcoin, Mike, so I'm just going to hold on to it and sell it. Why would I want to do anything else? Because you're not going to get much out of it. Unless you've got millions of dollars to buy a ton of Bitcoin right now, you're not going to get that much of a return as you can if you can get a lot more Bitcoin. So that's what today is about. Today's webinar is for those of you who recognize Bitcoin's going to go much higher for a long time and you want to get more as fast as you can. We'll be discussing how to get wealthy. And I know some people are uncomfortable with that word because they've never been wealthy. Well, I've been wealthy. I've had hard times before it, really hard times. My first business venture in the 1990s, I had to use my rent money to get started, and an eviction notice. Didn't care. I was so excited about it. Not everybody has that attribute to be able to just go all in on something. I totally get it. So understand my paradigm might be different than yours. I might say things that make you uncomfortable because you've never been wealthy. You've never thrown yourself into something and seen the return. You can just tone this down to where you're comfortable and get out of it what you're comfortable getting out of it. That's okay. But I'm going to speak from my paradigm. So I'm going to use words like wealthy because I've generated wealth, and then I've wasted and squandered that on, all kinds of things, and then lost that wealth and then created wealth again. That's the typical ride, even for the most successful, because they love to throw themselves into things. But one thing about people who consistently create wealth, they know how to spot opportunities, and when they see them, they seize them, and that's how they continue to generate more and more wealth consistently over their lifetime. So I'll be talking about how to get wealthy. If you want to, you can tone that down to where you're comfortable, get as much as you want to out of it. Like I said, you can set this up on autopilot. Won't get wealthy on autopilot, but you'll generate tons more Bitcoin and, be able to make your family's life a heck of a lot more secure for the rest of your lives, even on autopilot. I'll talk about all that, but I'm going to be in the paradigm of where I'm at and where some of you are at, of how to get wealthy from the Bitcoin phenomenon by generating more of it with several available USI strategies. I'm going to talk a little bit about my 20-year background in business that enabled me to know exactly what to look for to verify this as a legitimate strategy. I don't just jump into stuff. I'll talk a little bit more about my background, and you'll see just how little I jump into stuff over my 20 years. I'm very conservative. I may not sound conservative to people that aren't in the world of wealth, but when it comes to the opportunities, and particularly online opportunities, those who've been in the internet marketing industry, who are leaders in that industry, who follow that industry, know I'm extremely conservative. I've butted heads time and again with major leaders that I was friends with, but I had to be honest. And I was publicly honest about how I felt about what they were promoting. And, some of them didn't want to be my friends anymore. They came around. But, I am not afraid to be outspoken about scams and schemes. And that's what I'm known for in the industry. And it's how I've been able to develop my reputation, by just being straightforward, honest, and extremely conservative when it comes to opportunities. I'm going to talk about how I came to recognize USI as a future dominant player in the cryptocurrency market, and how I knew that it could not be a Ponzi. A little bit later, I'll talk about what a Ponzi is if you don't know. We're going to be discussing exactly how I generated over 70 Bitcoin in about 3 months. And I'm going to say very, very, very clearly, and while you should not expect the same results that I get, because results are dependent upon a number of factors and variables, I'm going to show you how you can generate more gains here than anywhere else, and how I know that. I'm going to share with you how you can generate Bitcoin by developing a team if you want to, and we have a system that's working incredibly well for those that want to plug into that and explode this thing. Or even if you don't want to ever refer anybody into USI ever, you don't like it, you're not comfortable with it, don't want to think about it, don't have to. You're going to get to choose how you want to participate. And I'm going to show you how you can generate significant Bitcoin either way. And we're going to be discussing how USI makes their profits. How do they make all this profit that allows them to pay what they do? It seems crazy at first. What's going on? Must be a Ponzi. And that was my initial reaction, to be honest. But I don't stop there. I mean, that's the difference. I'll discuss the risks and what USI has done to minimize those risks to create a long-term viable and sustainable model. Okay, so I'm not going to discuss those things in that order. I'm going to hit all of those things, though, today. I'm going to start with who is USI. They are a technology company specializing in the development of auto trading software. So, I got different people on this webinar. We might have, this holds 1,000 people, and we had close to 3,000 registering. I don't know how many people are on right now, and I'm assuming a lot of people can't get on. We have a lot of different people with a lot of different backgrounds and experiences and so forth. So, and knowledge about trading in general. So I need to be mindful of that. Those of you who aren't really familiar with trading, good news, don't need to be, but I want you to have a little bit of an understanding and background so you know what's going on. Those of you that are familiar with trading know some of this stuff, and probably even a lot more than me about the traditional trading models. It is very commonplace now, and has been for quite some time, that the big banks and financial institutions do most of their trading with software. It's just automatically trading. It's buying and selling with huge sums of money, hundreds of millions of dollars at a time sometimes, constantly, just buy, sell. And people are watching, but not really actually making the decisions. They're just watching the software. And now they've got AI, artificial intelligence, infused into the software. It's just getting insane, the algorithms and everything. So, the average investor coming onto NASDAQ or the New York Stock Exchange, they don't realize they're really playing against computers. And these computers are watching trends and behavioral patterns and buy and sell patterns and all kinds of crazy patterns that a human being can't process that fast. And it's making decisions and buying and selling based on those patterns. That's been going on in the banking industry for a very long time, on NASDAQ, New York Stock Exchange, and all the markets. That's just commonplace now. So USI isn't new to that. They, however, for many, many years, before they offered this opportunity to us, they were already a successful company, a very successful company with a fantastic reputation in the Forex market. And the Forex market is basically the foreign exchange market, currencies, huge huge market because it's international. And lots of big players and small players trading in the Forex market. And that's been for many, many, many years, Forex market's been going. USI was a leader in auto trading software and had a great reputation for doing exceptionally well and generating exceptional returns. This is before crypto, they were in the cryptocurrency market. They were getting exceptional returns month after month, year after year for their clients. But their clients, the lowest entry point had to be $100,000 just for USI to be involved. And they would use their auto trading software to manage the money they were investing with, and they would take a profit from what they were generating, and they would pay returns to their clients who would give them the money to invest with their auto trading software. And they had a fantastic record in the Forex market for many years. But again, only for high-end clients. I mean, people with entry point 100 grand, obviously leaving most people out. Then in October of 2016, last year, they lowered that threshold to a $1,000 entry point with this new concept, this new kind of model introduced, close to what I'll be sharing with you today, but still quite different. It wasn't the cryptocurrency market yet. But they lowered the threshold and opened it up with kind of this networking model after many years. So there's your first clue that this is different than your regular scheme of a company that comes along day one. They're using MLM to launch some kind of program to make money. Here's just a little clue, a little hint into some difference here right away. And there's many more to give you a sign that there's something significant and substantial going on here. They were already successful and had a very good reputation with the auto trading software and returns that they were providing for their high-end clients many years prior to 2016. Then they lowered the threshold to a $1,000 entry point, opened it up, and started moving towards this different kind of model. Then in March of 2017, they adapted, they tweaked, they changed the auto trading software to not just be for the Forex trading market, but to apply to the cryptocurrency market, which is massively, exponentially more lucrative because it's in its infancy and because it's so transformative, because the implications of it and the number of people and players getting involved is so unprecedented and will be for quite some time. So the returns that they were able to get by moving into the cryptocurrency market, taking the knowledge and experience they had with they had over 100 different versions of that they had continually upgraded and improved for years in the auto trading software niche for the Forex market, and taking that knowledge and applying it to the cryptocurrency market, you can start to see how, they may have kind of an edge. They may have kind of an advantage out there in the marketplace, even in front of the banks and big financial institutions that were late to the cryptocurrency game. They're only getting on board now. So then in March of 2017, earlier this year, when they tweaked the auto trading software to apply towards the cryptocurrency market, to have these computer systems, basically buying and selling for them and applying the skills and the knowledge that they had for this whole administrative infrastructure to handle all of this for the Forex market, applying that to the crypto market, they lowered the threshold to €50, which is about $60. So now anybody could get involved. Now, obviously, when they did that, a lot of people were scratching their heads, and it leaves them open to a lot of people going, wow, if you can come in for that low and you can play, have someone trade for you as if you're a big client, must be a scheme. Whenever you have, and I get it, I totally get it. Whenever you have the average ordinary person, or even someone a little, even less financially advantaged than the average ordinary middle class, when you have an opportunity open to everybody like you do in the network marketing industry, it brings into question all kinds of things. And I'm going to talk about that. I'm going to talk about how I entered into studying USI with the skepticism and really wondering, why would they do this? And what's their angle? And are they in it for a short-term hit and then they're out? Or are they investing into the long-term viability of this? it mattered to me a lot. I don't get involved with short-term stuff. I'm going to put my energy into something and my reputation behind something. I need to know it's going to last. So I'm going to talk about all that and how I came, what process I went through, what my background was that allowed me to know what to do and to ask, and what prior experiences I had that told me exactly who USI is in terms of their intentions. But before we go into that, I want to talk a little bit about how they make their money. So a lot of people are just so confused. How do they make, how does it exactly work? Okay, so it's really quite simple in many respects. I mean, so their software is not. Building their software and administering all of this is not. But the actual fundamental process of how they're making so much profit is actually quite simple in itself and to understand. There's something called arbitrage trading. And if you look at the left, you look at the image on my screen, over here on the left, this is actually a snapshot from somebody's television screen because it was discussed on the news very recently, in fact, how different the prices are for Bitcoin from exchange to exchange. And sometimes it's really dramatic, and sometimes it's just a little. But even when it's a little, if you have a lot of money and you have the administration and the experience and the things in place to be able to move that money quickly and purchase here and sell there, and it's happening all the time, you know, computers doing it and people managing it and the accounts all set up and everything set up where you can move large sums of money to buy and sell constantly all the time over all the exchanges, and there's hundreds of different exchanges and there's hundreds of different currencies. Bitcoin's only one of actually thousands of different alt currencies in the cryptocurrency market. Some of them just going up and down like crazy. And you've got the software because you got the years of experience to be able to develop software that tells you exactly what to do based on buying behavior in the moment. And you can see right here, just even this on the news the other day, you can see this exchange, Kraken, 17,212. These are the same time. These are the prices at the same time. 17,212 for Bitcoin. GDAX, a different exchange, 17,150. So that's interesting, right? And then, you know, look at this other one, Bitstamp, 16,600 or 969. There's at any given time throughout hundreds of different exchanges with thousands of different alt currencies, there are differences in price. And their software is allowing them, and their administration is allowing them to move, you know, to sell millions and millions, tens of millions of dollars of Bitcoin or an alt currency at a higher price and take the profit immediately, and then to immediately buy with that money in a split nanosecond at another exchange with the same amount of money, buy more of the of that currency at a cheaper price, and voila, they're just constantly generating more Bitcoin, Litecoin, and Ethereum, and all these altcoins constantly. And that's one of, and it's at no risk. It's no risk to USI, because when you see that you can sell your Bitcoin or an alt, say Bitcoin as we're looking at this screen, and you can see here Kraken, look on the screen, Kraken, $17,212 at 10:50 a.m. Eastern time on just the other day. When you have tens of millions of dollars of Bitcoin in Kraken and you sell it at $17,212, and nanoseconds later, and they can buy and sell way faster because they're doing volume, right? And they got the resources, and they got the people there to manage, and they got the setup to do that. And they did it for years, so it's all there. The infrastructure is there. When you can sell tens of millions of dollars of that, and then a nanosecond later buy Bitcoin at 16,957 or 16,969, you just generated more Bitcoin out of thin air with no risk. And if you can do that all day long, minute after minute, hour after hour, and you've got the software and the systems running to constantly be doing this, not just with Bitcoin, but with altcoins, sometimes the spread is incredible, and they're just constantly collecting coins. They're constantly collecting. It's like printing money. They are making so much profit, and it's so easy to understand why, that once you understand it, you realize It's ridiculous to think that they need to do a Ponzi to pay out the returns they are, and they laugh. They're so transparent and open. They've laughed when they address how they're making so much profits. It's very obvious they're generating massive profits, and the investments that they've made have proven that. We'll talk about that a little bit later. But I just want you to understand the arbitrage trading concept, very simple, very fundamental. And when you accept, they didn't just enter into this. I understand that there are companies that see what's going on, and they're popping up all the time, and they're scams. They have this story that they can do what USI does, but they didn't already have their system set up for years in the Forex market, developing auto trading software, taking on high clients, paying out returns, developing the infrastructure to move massive amounts of money around. A lot of these people are just coming in, putting up a snazzy website that collects money and pays out money. That's not the same challenge. That's not the same skill. That's not the same knowledge base. That's not the same thing. Now, obviously, I'm jumping ahead. I got to say this. When I was in the network marketing industry in the 90s, and I didn't really like the MLM industry beyond the company I was with. I thought it was junky and spammy and weird. But the company I was with was doing really amazing things, and I'll talk a little bit more about that. It's how I got involved with marketing and business and everything. I was in the 90s. But as I started to learn more about the other opportunities out there, I started to realize why the mainstream hated MLM and hated network marketing, because most of them were junk, especially back then before the FTC really started to heavily regulate it. Most network marketing companies were schemes. They were. And I didn't argue with anybody who said that. It's easy to understand why in this Wild West environment you're going to have a lot of schemes. But you need to have the ability. If you ever want to make it big anywhere, you need to have the ability, because all Wild West industries are going to have that. You have to have the ability to be able to see what is real and what isn't. And it's not that hard. You need a little bit of, analytical, questioning. But then at some point it's kind of obvious. What background do they have? A lot of these schemy companies, you don't even know who the owners are, or they're out of they never leave like the country of Turkey or something like that. You got to be able to ascertain what's going on. I'm going to get into all of that later. I just want you to understand, it's really obvious how they can generate a lot of profits with arbitrage trading when you can move huge sums of money around constantly with the software, buying and selling and making money out of thin air. Generating Bitcoin, they're just getting more Bitcoin when they make a move, and they're making that move all the time. Really easy to understand that, I think. There's also just plain out trading. Their software is also telling them when to hold. For example, this is, let's see, what is this? So this is June of 2015 to December 2017, but you see, really starting to take off. The software is telling them based on buying behavior, when to buy and when to sell. And so they're not just trading the arbitrage trading, they're also knowing when they should hold and take the profits. Now here's Litecoin. They're not just trading with Bitcoin. We buy the BTC packages, which I'll talk about later, with Bitcoin, and we get paid in Bitcoin, but they take the Bitcoin and they're investing it into all kinds of alt currencies, Litecoin, Ethereum, and there's hundreds of them. There's actually thousands of them. I'm sure they're focused on hundreds, not thousands, because a lot of them are junk too. But they have the software telling them how to trade. How to, just like the banks and the financial institutions and the big hedge funds are using computers to tell them when to buy and sell stock, there aren't individuals anymore making those decisions for the most part on the big level of NASDAQ and New York Stock Exchange. They're looking at patterns, buying behaviors, weird algorithmic trends on a second by second, the big banks are. And that's how they're making their huge profit in trading stocks. They're not sitting there analyzing it themselves. And it's the same thing with USI. They have their system that they developed for years in Forex that they applied towards the cryptocurrency market that tells them how to buy and sell. So they can move giant sums of money around and just continually make profits. So arbitrage is one of them. Trading is another. They're also involved with mining as a profit generator, and we'll talk a little bit more about that today, and I'll have another webinar to go deeper into some of the more complicated stuff. But there's trading, and trading is another way that they're able to generate huge profits. You can see Litecoin, for example. See how at 6:04 a.m., this is a one-day view, It drops way down. Volatility is huge profits for people who know how to trade, and people have systems in place to trade. The more volatile something is, the more profit they can make, as long as they have the systems and the structures in place to tell them when to buy and when to sell. As the banks do for NASDAQ and New York Stock Exchange and for commodities and for currencies, and as USI does for the cryptocurrency market. But you can see right here at 6:04 a.m. it plummeted. It went from like, I don't know if it was around 300 to around 266, and it shot back up. These guys have the systems to tell them to sell right here and then to buy right here. They can tell based on the number of people buying and all kinds of patterns that the systems are watching, just like the banks do. This is just how it works, even on New York Stock Exchange with the big banks. I mean, a lot of you have money in IRAs, you have money in hedge funds, mutual funds, people that are managing your money, and you don't even know it. A lot of it comes out of, your company might set that up for you or what have you. If you have a government shop, that might be set up for you. But all of that's being traded the same way. You're just hardly making any of the money. Look at this here. This is a shot of the biggest gainers. Day by day, it changes. I told you there's hundreds, and there's actually thousands of altcoins. These are different altcoins. You can see this one went up 2,800% in 24 hours. This one, second one, biggest gainer today, went up 520%. It's crazy, and the volatility is incredible. The opportunity for profits is insane, and that's because, again, it's on an international scale, so everyone's involved. It's not just the U.S. market. Everyone's involved all over the world. So it's breaking all traditional models for that reason, but also because everyone's so darn excited about it, because every intelligent person knows, and it's all over the media, that the blockchain that's driving all this, the blockchain technology is going to revolutionize every aspect of our lives. And while it's a little bit difficult to explain and for someone to understand who's not big in technology, it took me a while to get why and how the blockchain is going to revolutionize our lives. It only takes like a documentary or two to get that it is and to kind of understand why. It's just a more efficient, effective means of tracking transactions, and transactions take place in every business model, every government model, everything that we do in our economy, every commerce, everything from education to real estate, you name it, is a transaction. And so if you understand that everything's going to be redone in the blockchain, you understand the blockchain is going to revolutionize everything, and it's going to change the way we live and work. It's going to change the way we look at currency. It's going to change the way we look at everything. And again, watch a documentary or two. You can get that. You can start to see that and understand enough to know that that's true, kind of like people in the 90s started to understand at some point that whether they wanted to learn how to use the internet or not, the world was going to leave them behind if they didn't. Same thing here. And because it's so exciting, and because it's so transformative, and because it's on an international scale and no one wants to be left behind, everyone's jumping in, and that's going to continue to happen because of the scale of impact it's going to have. It's just getting started. And so that's why you see this incredible volatility and these incredible gains on a day-to-day basis like nothing any of our traditional models have ever seen before. And you can just start to understand if they have an edge, and it just doesn't take a lot of intelligence to know if they were using auto trading software for years in the Forex market successfully, and they were able to transition over and to apply that to the cryptocurrency market, they're probably going to have an edge or an advantage, probably. Not the only thing you want to look at, but definitely is one of the big hints that something is significantly different here in terms of USI's ability to have a dominant advantage over, in the market share. So they're trading and they're making money that way. I just want to talk a little bit more about NASDAQ to help understand like what's going on here and the scope of all of this. NASDAQ, if you look at 2013 to now, it's gone up a lot. But it's pretty tapped out. Now, the reason why it's probably mostly going up is because no one wants cash. No one wants fiat currency. This kind of helps you understand why cryptocurrency is taking off, too. I think it's important to get this because it helps you understand why there's so much money here. Like, I'm not here. Today isn't about convincing you that Bitcoin is huge and cryptocurrency is going to keep going up and it's just at the bottom. That's not, even though what I'm sharing with you now kind of explains that, the reason why I'm sharing what I am now is to help you understand why and how USI, it's another piece of it, of why and how USI is able to generate so much profit, why it's not pie in the sky, and why it's still long-term and has a lot of potential going forward. Because the other piece to this is that fiat currency, the dollar, the euro, the yen, you name it, it's on the way out. And we know that it's on the way out because you remember back to 2008, there was the crash, right? The major crash because they inappropriately handled our money. It's funny how you watch the news and you see all these big bankers that were responsible for the last major bubble that destroyed a lot of people's lives and caused a lot of people to lose their homes. The same people that took huge checks and bonuses from our tax dollars to bail them out, you know, corporate welfare basically, and socialism. They hate socialism for the poor, but they love socialism for the rich. Those guys are the ones out there, you know, talking about how Bitcoin's a bubble. And yet they're the ones that were responsible, same guys responsible for the 2008 bubble that no one hardly ever talks about anymore, that crashed our economy and, you know, made taxpayers have to bail out the banks, which caused them to actually get raises, pay raises, and bonuses. Same guys. They're the ones who created the bubble. Anyway, out of all that, a lot of people had their eyes opened, and realized that fiat currency is on the way out. They're just printing money, printing money, printing money. It's becoming devalued. And that's why the stock market's going up so much. And it's also why cryptocurrency is going up. So here's NASDAQ. We can see it's gone up a lot over, it might be topped out, and cryptocurrency might start cutting into this. But in fact, I'm certain that it will. But you can see between 2013 and now, it's gone up significantly. If you look at this is New York Stock Exchange. You can see the crash here was at 1,600. You know, prior to the crash in 2008. If you look to the far left, crashed down to 8,000, so cut in half because of the bubble that bursted that all the big banks were playing in. You know, at the expense of a lot of people who lost their homes. And then, of course, it's gone up since significantly. Now it's at 24,000 in a very short period of time. You know, this could also be called a bubble. Certainly the real estate market was a bubble, and they weren't calling it then until the crash was obvious and too late. And now they don't talk about that. You know, they want to talk about how Bitcoin's a bubble. But the reality is fiat currency is the bubble. And you need to kind of educate yourself about some of this stuff, even if you don't want to or don't like to, because your family's future depends on it in a very serious and real way. It doesn't take a lot of financial education to remember the bubble, right, and the crash, and how scared everyone was. Get back to that feeling for a second, because that was real. And remember who did that and what they're saying now. And it just doesn't take a lot of financial education or even any real skill or gift at all to realize that because of that and the awareness that fiat currency is being inflated. They're printing it. They're just wasting it. And it's not sustainable, clearly. We're going more and more into debt, insane amounts of debt. That is an inflationary environment, meaning fiat currency, like the dollar, is becoming worth less and less. And that's why the stock market is going up. And that's also partly why, a big part why, people want cryptocurrency. It's a way out of that. And no one's going to stop it. No government's going to stop it because it's their only way out of the mess that they got us into. Okay. So that's why the profits are so big. It's also inflationary. And if you don't get involved, you're just going to end up not having anything because your dollar's it's going to buy less and less over time, as you've already seen. Okay. Let's now move on to the products and how USI pays you. So we understand now that through arbitrage trading and regular trading, I'm not going to get into the mining part so much today. I'll talk a little bit about the mining that they're doing, but there's, just arbitrage and trading are the easiest ways for your average person. It's a significant part of how they're generating profits. And it's not hard to see, especially with the arbitrage for your average person, if they've got the software, how they're generating huge profits themselves. And it's a very similar model to what they did years ago with their high-end clients, where people would give $100,000 or more to USI. They would invest on behalf of those clients using their auto trading software, in the Forex market, and they would pay significant returns. Same model, but now it's applied to the cryptocurrency market. It's even more profitable and lucrative for the reasons that we described: inflationary environment, people moving away, not trusting fiat currency, moving into cryptocurrency, plus just the big bonanza that's all creating, the frenzy that's all creating, and will continue to create for a very long time as the market develops, grows, and we saw it happen with the internet as it continues to grow through its childhood years into teenage years into maturity. And right now I'd say it's about 3 years old. So we got a long time to ride this wave. But the longer you wait, the more Bitcoin and other cryptocurrencies go up, the further and further away the big opportunity is for you to capitalize. So that's why we want to capitalize now. And again, today's about getting more, Bitcoin, growing more Bitcoin, not just buying Bitcoin, because you got to be a multimillionaire now to buy enough to make the huge returns over time, any life-changing stuff. So what we want to do is, figure out how can we get more Bitcoin? And that's what the USI strategy allows you to do. A little bit, I'm going to show you, how it's helped me do that. Again, not to say that you can duplicate what I've done, because I worked very hard. I'm going to talk about all the different ways you can do it. You can do autopilot. You can work hard if you want to. You can use our system, the same system that I used. We're going to talk about all this, but first let's understand what the product is itself. So we call them BTC packages. And it's just a concept of this transaction of buying a product from USI so that they can then go earn profits in the way that I've described. Very similar to how they used to do it, but before it was a $100,000 entry point. It was the Forex market. Now it's the cryptocurrency market, and you can get involved at 50 euro, which is about $60. That's what it costs to buy a BTC package, and you can get as many as you want. But let's just talk about, one package for simplicity. It's 50 euro, which is about $60 for one BTC package. And again, you can get as many as you want. And what that does is it pays you between 0.75% up to 1.25% per day on weekdays. So that's Monday through Friday, not on the weekends, for 140 work days until you've gotten 140%. ROC stands for return on capital. So let me explain what that means. And let's put this into simpler terms. 0.75% to 1.25%. From now on today, I'll refer to as 1%. It's not ever exactly 1%. Sometimes it's 0.96%. I have seen it as high as 1.25%, and I've seen 0.75%. It is, I'm noticing, less than 1% for the last several months. But it doesn't matter, because here's the important part to get. It keeps paying you between 0.75% and 1.25% for about 140 days. But if it pays you, let's say, 0.8% for those 140 days, it will just keep paying you for more days until you get 140% back. So it doesn't really matter that much if it's paying, 0.8% or 1%. It's just a few more days that it's paying you to get to your 140%. You're getting 140%, but that's not 140% profit. We need to understand it's 140%, meaning if you buy a BTC package and it costs you $60, you're buying it in Bitcoin, but that's about $60. You're going to get all of that back plus 40%. So you buy it in Bitcoin. And again, I'm going to refer to it from now on as 1% a day for 140 days for simplicity's sake when we're talking and we're trying to make a point. I'm going to say 1 because it's easier to understand that. I'm going to say from now on today 1% per day per day. It's on weekdays, but I'll say per day for 140 days till you get 140% return on capital. ROC is return on capital. And again, what that means is you have 40% more Bitcoin. You're growing Bitcoin. And you can get a lot more than just that. That's just their simplest, most basic strategy. And that strategy alone is amazing. And I'm going to break it all down here in a minute. It's amazing in and of itself because you're growing Bitcoin. You're getting more Bitcoin. You don't have to refer anybody. It's all on autopilot. And after those 140 work days pass, you end up with more Bitcoin. So if Bitcoin goes up, I'm going to show you some examples of this so you really understand this as compared to just holding Bitcoin. So we were buying and holding Bitcoin. That's nothing compared to this, because this you're going to have 40% more Bitcoin after your package is done, which is 140 work days. You're going to have 40% more Bitcoin than what you started with. And again, this is the smallest strategy. This is the least significant strategy, and it's already massively different. I'm going to show you how much more it is massively better than if you just bought and held Bitcoin. By the way, for those of you who don't know, you can buy a fraction of a Bitcoin. You can start with something very small. My daughter started with like a few $100 worth, little tiny fraction of Bitcoin. And through my account, because you got to be 18, and she was 15 when she started. She just turned 16. My son's doing this too, by the way. He actually put even more in. But you get their own money. They're growing Bitcoin. They're getting Bitcoin. And it didn't take them long to figure it out. At first, they were not sure. And once they understood that when you're going to end up with more Bitcoin, they're like, oh, yeah, for sure. I'm in. You're getting more Bitcoin. So I'm going to break that down. By the way, this arrow is pointing at how much Bitcoin I've generated in just over 3 months just from this strategy. Now, I've generated a lot more, and I have a family account. I'm well over 70 Bitcoin. But this lifetime return on capital right here, this almost 13 Bitcoin. And by the way, this is just today. My available balance, 1.64 Bitcoin was generated with several USI strategies just today. And at about $17,000, let's look at what that is real quick. Just today. And remember, my results are not what you should expect to get. I'm going to be very clear about what I did to create this. Your results will depend on all kinds of different variables and factors, but there is one thing for sure, and I'm going to be establishing today, if you take advantage of even the most basic, simplest strategy and put this on autopilot, you're going to get returns. And that is huge in and of itself. But I'm sharing my examples with you so you understand the magnitude and how I have used this strategy and what returns it's given, but not to lead you to believe that you just set this up on autopilot and you're going to generate, the same kind of returns. I want you to understand how all this works and to make a decision that's right for you, and understand how, that if you participate with all the strategies, you're going to generate much more than just on autopilot. Okay, but even on autopilot, it's huge. I just want you to see how much I've generated with all strategies applied that I'll be talking about. 1.64 times, it's about $17,000 now. So that's $27,800 today that I could withdraw. I could right now withdraw it. Now I'm applying the compounding strategy, so I want to get to 2.5 Bitcoin a day, which is insane, insane returns. But that's what I want. That's my goal. And so I'm going to apply the compounding rebuy strategy, and I'll talk about that today. I just want you to see just the one strategy alone that you can do on autopilot. I got to almost 13 Bitcoin so far from that in 3 months, and I have these other strategies employed. Again, your results will be based on what you put into it, and we'll talk about that so you can make a decision on what you want to put into it, and you can set goals that are right for you. Okay, so that's the BTC packages. I'll come back to that in a minute because that's really the flagship focus right now. What's coming out next is it says Forest package. It's Forex package. They're going to return to their roots with the Forex market because it's a much larger market, and they're going to apply what they've learned with this model with the BTC packages, and they will have a fiat currency product where you don't have to have cryptocurrency to participate in their auto trading software, and it will work similar to the to the BTC packages, but that's not out yet. I just want you to know that's coming, and that's one of the things that you want to look for with a company that has a long-term sustainable model is diversification. But we'll talk about that another time. It's not available yet, but it is coming. And then there's the tech coin product. And for those that don't know what ICOs are, or they don't know about the altcoins, most of them are crap. But some of them are exceptionally valuable and will continue to increase in value. And people are making millions off various altcoins out there. At its most basic fundamental level, a coin is valuable if the company is valuable, and if the company is investing into an infrastructure that builds the value behind the coin. I'm going to have another separate webinar to discuss the tech coin. As you can see, and I have my account and I have a family account that I'm helping them build. Between those two accounts, there's 400,000 tokens that I purchased, and I plan to sell that at over 5 million to 15. Actually, no, sorry, at 15 million to 30 million return within about a year. That doesn't mean that's what's going to happen. That's my plan, and I believe very strongly that that's going to be what happens. I'm going to have a different webinar to share with you about the tech coin, because it's a whole other webinar all in of itself. We'll get a lot deeper into what USI is doing. I'm going to touch upon some of it today to show you this is a sustainable, long-term focused business model, and that these people are serious about being here for years to come and dominate the cryptocurrency market. But I'll get into details later, because all of the stuff that they're doing that I'll just touch upon today are what build the value of the tech coin. But we need a whole nother call to discuss that. Now, to date, since they are in the pre-sale of this tech coin, they've sold, and I'm sure it's higher now, but at the time I took the snapshot, over 77 million. And when it gets to 500 million, right now they're selling it to the insiders, that is us. And when you register with USI, even for free, you become an insider and can participate in this. Again, I encourage you to start with the BTC packages, because that's now money, and I'm going to show you how that works. But I'm going to do another webinar likely next week on the tech coin, and I encourage you guys all to stay tuned and pay close attention to my emails and be on that call so you better understand the tech coin, because it was really hard for me to grasp the value of it. I want to make sure that I can speed up the process of you understanding just how valuable that is, because even though it's a little bit more longer term, it's huge, huge opportunity, and it's really easy to see how big of a return it can be once I break it down for you. So I'm going to do that in a separate call. Let's get back to the BTC packages. So the BTC packages is what I was talking about earlier. It has a daily payment of return on capital. So it's paying you daily. I'm going to show you that in a minute in more detail. Again, you get 140%. Actually, that's not quite right. Let me be really clear. You get 140% back. So that means the 100% is what you put in plus 40%. So let me be really clear on that. You get 40% more Bitcoin than you started with. You get daily withdrawals of returns and commissions. I'm going to talk about commissions separately. Commissions require that you refer people, and we have a system, an educational system in place to help you do that. Where you can use our ads, and even if you've never done ads on Facebook before, you can just follow exactly what we're doing. We give you the images, the text. We show you step by step how to set it up. It's, we got lots of people in there doing extremely well, getting commissions and building their teams. But that's optional. You don't have to do that. You could just take the daily returns from getting a BTC package or multiple BTC packages and get those daily returns. And again, I'm going to show you how that works and how much that can compound. And as you can see, this last statement, that can compound. I talked about earlier how you can get 40% more Bitcoin after about 140 days. Well, you can actually get much more with a second strategy that we call rebuy. It allows you to compound that. That's what I'm doing. It allows you to get far more free Bitcoin. I mean, just literally generating Bitcoin that you didn't have to purchase yourself. I'm going to show you how that works, and it's really what a lot of people are so excited about and what people are doing so well with. So let's talk about the path to passive income with this. So here's an example. You purchase 25 BTC packages. Hang with me here. You purchase 25. I talked about the BTC packages being 50 euro. You buy them in Bitcoin, but it's set at 50 euro. To give us some kind of understanding of what we're talking about, right? So if you purchase 25 BTC packages, in this example, that's 1,250 euro. For those that need to know what that is in dollar, that's about $1,500. This is just an example to help you understand this. Now let's say the run time is approximately 140 working days. I talked about that. You buy a BTC package, or if you buy 25 BTC packages, it's sitting in there working for you for 140 working days. So your return on capital after 140 working days would be 1,750 euro, assuming Bitcoin remains the same price. So if you were, I'm going to show you an example of this. If you had just held Bitcoin and Bitcoin stayed the same, you didn't have it, you didn't make anything. But here, even if Bitcoin stays the same, you've made a profit, a significant profit. If Bitcoin goes up, I'm going to show you some examples in a moment, you make massively more. And again, this is the most primitive way to participate. You just set up on autopilot. You don't do the rebuy compounding strategy. It's really nothing in comparison. It's still impressive. You're growing Bitcoin by 40%. You've got more Bitcoin. So even if Bitcoin didn't go up, you have more of it. So you're making 40% more than what you started with. But again, we have other strategies that make this even more amazing. I'm going to show you some examples so it's all clear. Now, in your back office, if you have a free account at USI, you can all set up a free account and access this. You can go to commissions and go to the calculator. And you can play around with this. And I'm going to enter in this example, 25 BTC packages. So enter in 25, average return of capital per working day, 1%, because on average, we say it's 1%. Again, I've noticed it's a little under 1% per day, like 0.96, and that's 0.75, averages out to about 0.9, it looks like, for me. Again, it can be a little bit different for everybody because the market's fluctuating, and they're using that to make sure they have a solid model. So it's between 0.75 and 0.1.25. I'm just going to say 1% for simplicity, but just understand if it does pay an average of, let's say, 0.9 or 0.85 over that 140 days, and it's not quite 1%, it just runs for a few more days until it's paid you 140%. So you've gotten 100% back plus 40% more, and you're getting paid in Bitcoin again, so you got 40% more Bitcoin than what you ended up with. Okay, so I'm going to say 1% for simplicity's sake. You got 25 packs. And again, you can enter this into the calculator in the back office and play around with this. You can start with more packs, less packs, and see where you end up. And then your rebuy percentage, I'm going to put it 100%. This is part of the autopilot. You have a feature in there where you can, I'm going to talk about the compounding strategy now. I'm going to talk about the compounding strategy, how you can make a lot more than 40% Bitcoin. So you set it, let's say, at 100% rebuy. So what that means is, as it's paying you Bitcoin and giving you a return every day, if you set it at 100% rebuy, and this is what I was doing for some time, it's taking that return and buying more packages. So you're not having to put out more of your own money, but you're putting more packages to work for you. So you're getting the compounding effect, and you end up getting significantly higher returns than just the 40% more Bitcoin. And here's how that works. This is working days. So when you buy the package, it says 0, and then 1, 2, 3. This is the number of days it's running. Return of capital. This is showing you how much return you're getting. And as it goes forward, it's going to grow. I'm going to show you that in a minute. This shows you how many active packages you have. You can see you're starting with 25, but without putting in any more money, you see on day 4, you have 26 with this strategy. So you literally got another package working for you at this point on day 4. Like it says rebuy packages 1. You got one more package without having to pay for it. This is where the magic comes. And then wallet total, this is showing you what it's going to say in your available balance. I would just ignore that because we're on the rebuy. And so all of it, when it can, will buy another package with this strategy. And then package total value, this is going to grow. I'm going to show you that in a minute. What this is basically going to show you is how the compounding strategy ends up making you so much more money. So let's jump to day 71. It's been running for 71 days. You now have, it's now paying you 0.0017 Bitcoin. I'll break that down a little bit more so you understand that, but this is easier to understand. You now have double the packs. You didn't have to shell out any more money, but by day 71, you have twice as many BTC packages with this strategy. Again, I'm going to be really clear. Listen to this really clearly. You do not have to employ this strategy. You could be taking all of the money. You don't have to rebuy. You could be taking that 40% extra Bitcoin that you make over 140 working days like I talked about. But now I'm talking about the real magic if you want to make massively more Bitcoin than that. You keep putting your money back to work. Compounding is extremely powerful. So if you keep buying more BTC packages, you keep having a greater and greater return, you keep having a growing amount of residual Bitcoin being paid to you. So again, by day 71, your 25 BTC packages that cost you $1,500 has turned into 50 packages, which is about $3,000 now working for you. And you now have 0.1818 Bitcoin, which is twice the amount you put in. So if Bitcoin went up, got to get this, if Bitcoin went up, it is so much more valuable than if you had only held Bitcoin. listen carefully to what I'm about to say. We started with 0.0909 Bitcoin. We started with 0.0909 Bitcoin, which is about $1,500. If you only held it and did not do the USI strategy, you would have 0.0909 Bitcoin 6 months from now or whenever. So if Bitcoin goes up to 40,000, fantastic, you made some profit. And I'll show you exactly some examples in a minute. But you still only have 0.0909 Bitcoin. So unless you could buy a lot of Bitcoin, like millions worth, you're not going to do a life-changing financial situation here. But in this case, at day 71, you've got twice the number of packages working for you. You're getting a daily return, which we'll talk about a little more in a minute. And you've now got double the amount of Bitcoin. You have double the amount of Bitcoin. So if it goes to 40,000, you've got double because you've got twice as much Bitcoin as if you had only held it. Let's keep looking at this. Oh, yeah, well, let's keep looking at this. You now see, remember this column here, if you look at my cursor, the number 1. Now you have so many packages and you're getting so much return on capital that it's able to buy one package for you every day with the return on capital because it's compounding, it's growing. Because you're getting more and more packages. This is your packages here, 90, 91, 92, 93. This is the packages growing, and now it's able to buy a package for you every day, in fact, even before this. And so now you have, again, over here in the far upper right, your Bitcoin value is growing. Now, you might be wondering if you look at the bottom, why did it get smaller down here in the lower bottom? Because your first 25 packages, if you look at the lower far right, your first 25 packages that you bought expire. They're done after 140 days. So at that point, it drops a little bit in terms of the total value of Bitcoin that you have working for you. But if you keep going, just hang with me because I'm going to give you some examples and make this all really clear. If you keep going down to this, say, day 300, just check this out. And you're already doing well, and I'll show you some examples of it. You're already doing way better than if you ever just held it. Now you have 0.0066 every day that you're getting. This is what this is. This is every day that you're getting at day 300. Every day you're getting that. So let's look at some examples now. Let's look at what you now notice, by the way, now it can buy 2 packages every day without forking out more money to get it working. This is how you're building up massive residual income paid to you in Bitcoin. It's so important to understand this. And I know that it's hard at first, which is why I always recommend people just get a BTC package. It's something they can afford and see it working and just keep watching these videos till you finally get it. It took me a little while. I kind of got it. It's a little fuzzy. I got a BTC package. I started getting paid the return on capital. People start seeing that they can buy more packages. And you start to get it. And you listen to these videos again and like, oh my goodness, this is crazy, amazing. Okay. So what would you have instead had you just held, how much Bitcoin would you have? Let's do a comparison and to really understand this. What would you have had instead had you just held the original 0.0909 Bitcoin? What would you have if you just bought that and held it instead of doing this compounding strategy? Let's look at that. Remember, 0.0909 Bitcoin is what we started with in this example. That's equivalent to 25 BTC packages. That's equivalent to about $1,500. Let's say you just bought, let's say you just bought you just bought $1,500 of Bitcoins. That's 0.09. I got my calculator out. That's 0.0909 Bitcoin. And let's say you just held on to that. And it went up to 40,000, and that's what experts are saying is going to happen in 2018. So let's just say it goes to 40,000. So I multiply 0.0909 Bitcoin by 40,000. Bitcoin goes to 40,000. Because a lot of people are like, I think I'll just hang on to my Bitcoin and see it go up. And they don't realize they're losing out on getting wealthy by compounding, by leveraging. So you would have $3,636 if you sold that Bitcoin for 40,000. You'd have $3,636. But let's see what you would have if you did this compounding strategy at day 300 if it goes to 40,000. So again, over here where the arrow is, this is what it's paying you per day. So 0.0066 times 40,000 equals. You're getting $264 a day paid to you in Bitcoin. You're like, well, that's not very much. Let's look at how much that is over the course of a month. We multiply that by 21 days because it pays you on weekdays. It's about 21 days in a month, weekdays in a month. You're getting $5,544 a month every month and growing, and you're getting paid in Bitcoin. This is how you get more and more and more Bitcoin. That's way better than the $3,600 one-time payoff that you would have had if you had just held it. You're getting $5,544 a month. And this is just one strategy. These are the little strategies. You're getting way more Bitcoin every month. This is how you get wealth. You got to look for these mechanisms. The wealthy compound. The banks and all of them are compounding massively with the NASDAQ and with New York Stock Exchange and with commodity trading, and they're using Autobot trading software to do it. Here's your way to tap into that in the cryptocurrency market, to tap into Autobot trading software that you would never be able to manage yourself, that you wouldn't have the money to get into yourself, but to do it with cryptocurrency, specifically with Bitcoin, so that you can grow your Bitcoin through the power of compounding, leveraging the most revolutionary, transformative industry development that's ever happened in the history of the world. A lot of experts are saying that, and it's pretty obvious. If you look, you watch a couple documentaries. It's insane. I mean, it's so exciting. Again, I'm going to say it one more time. You would have, if you did the leveraging strategy over 300 working days, you would be getting $5,500. You don't even have to wait that long to have it be amazing. But you get $5,544 a day in Bitcoin. You're paid in Bitcoin, which is awesome, because if it keeps going up, you got more Bitcoin. It keeps growing, keeps compounding, keeps increasing. It's absolutely amazing. Let's look at $500,000, because a lot of people say by 2020, it's going to go to $1 million. Let's say 500,000. If you just held it, what would your 0.0909 Bitcoin be worth when it goes to 500,000? You started with $1,500. You bought Bitcoin. You have 0.0909 Bitcoin. It goes to 500,000. You now have 45,450. Not bad, right? If you take $1,500 and you buy Bitcoin now, and it goes to 500,000 by 2020, you're going to make, again, I just lost it on my calculator, 0.0909 times 500,000. You're going to have 45,450. So you make about $44,000. Not bad. But what happens if you do the strategy? Well, you're getting 0.00 over here. You're getting this every day and growing, 0.0066 every day in Bitcoin times 500,000. You're getting $3,300 a day. Multiply in Bitcoin. Multiply that by 21. You're getting about $70,000 in Bitcoin, so way more every month. Not just once. Every month. In Bitcoin, and growing. A lot of people never achieve wealth because they can't see into the future, and they're not patient enough. They don't understand compounding, and they've never got any of those mechanisms to work for them like the wealthy do. This is your chance to get them working for you. Let's keep digging at this closer so you understand. Comparison examples. Example with 1,500 in Bitcoin. Let's compare USI to holding Bitcoin a little bit more closely. So this is what I'm saying. I just want to break it down out of the way so you understand. If Bitcoin's price is 16,508. I think it's actually higher than that now, but when I was making these slides, it was 16,508. And you start with 0.0909 Bitcoin. That's about $1,500 or 25 BTC packs. Without USI, just holding the Bitcoin until it gets to 40,000, you get $3,636. You made $2,136. Great. Fantastic. You're not going to quit your job. You're not going to change your family's future. With USI, no rebuy, no compounding, not even that cool strategy I just went over, but the first one, the most basic and primitive. Using USI, but no rebuy, no compounding. You just buy the BTC packs and then you take the money as fast as you can. You're scared. Most primitive, basic. Start with something small. Keep the example consistent to understand the comparison. So you start with 0.0909 Bitcoin, about $1,500. It's about 25 BTC packs. No compounding, nothing special. 140 working days. You're taking it out every day. The packages are done after 140 days. And bam, what do you got? You have 0.1276 Bitcoin. You grew your Bitcoin from 0.0909 to 0.1276, which is $5,100. You made $3,600. You made a lot more. You made 40% more Bitcoin. Now remember, that's a Bitcoin, is at 40,000. As it keeps going up, obviously you make exponentially more. You make significantly more, not just on addition, but you make significantly more because you have more Bitcoin as it keeps going up. It's how you got Bitcoin without buying it. And again, this all can be done on autopilot, and it could be a very low-risk way to participate. But let's look at this. With USI, using the rebuy and compounding strategies I've been doing for 3 months, and so many people that I'm working with have been doing exceptionally well with. Using the rebuy and compounding that I just went over. 300 working days. Say 300 working days, you have $5,376 in Bitcoin you're receiving in Bitcoin per month. But you started with 0.0909 Bitcoin. And it's still growing at that point every month. You're receiving it residually, and it's increasing. And you're able to take a lot of it out. You could start taking that out even way before then, way before the 300 days. You could start taking that out, like half of it. You could set the rebuy on autopilot for 50% rebuy instead of 100%. Start taking half of that out, take it as cash, turn it into cash, buy other cryptocurrencies with it, invest it into other cryptocurrencies, because you'll be learning about other opportunities as you go down this path and surround yourself with these people. Or use it on bills. You can get a credit card or a debit card that you can just buy things and it spends your cryptocurrency. It's awesome. I go to restaurants every day. I'm spending Bitcoin. You can take out half and leave the other half working for you, and it's still growing and compounding that way. But there's no comparison between the two. Between buying and holding Bitcoin, you're still stuck with your 0.0909. And the other thing is, you're hedging. Hedging means if Bitcoin goes down temporarily, it makes you nervous. Most of us know it's going to bounce back up, but there's moments where people sell it, and China says something that goes down temporarily, like happened last month before it rebounded way up high. There's these moments where it can go down, and it's scary sometimes. And so to take away that edge, you hedge. In other words, by doing this, you're growing the amount of Bitcoin you have so you don't sweat it. You don't have to sweat the price every day because you're going to have more Bitcoin, which balances that out. It has to drop, by 100. It has to drop by like 50, 60, 70% before I have to worry because I'm doing the rebuy compounding. So it has to drop massively. And I've seen it take a dip after I got in about 3 months ago. And I was like, nah, no big deal because I'm making more Bitcoin, and it never got low enough where I wouldn't still be at a profit. And then, of course, it bounced way up higher and it went way beyond, which most of us know it's going to do. But still, it's scary when it does those dips. This is a way to hedge so you don't have to feel that edge. You don't have to feel that nervousness. They call it hedging. Both ways, whether Bitcoin goes up or Bitcoin goes down, you still can profit. And if it goes up, you profit exponentially more. There's just no comparison. I'm going to share these later, but somebody said, I just got, this is someone new. I got hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of these. I won't go into them all. I just got a Bitcoin package that I didn't buy with their own money. It's been less than a week since I joined up. Already the rebuy function is paying off. Again, that's why I encourage you guys to start with something small and something that doesn't scary to you. Whether you've had Bitcoin already, if it's the first time you get a little Bitcoin, we'll help you get set up, get your first Bitcoin, get a little fraction of a Bitcoin like my daughter did. She got like a couple $100 worth. You can even start with just like a little over $60. And then watch it grow and start seeing it compound, and then you start to get it. Really, it's when I got it. It's when most people get it. Brian Morgan, I've spent here's a more sophisticated one. I'm going to be talking about our educational system for those that want to build a team. I just want to share this with you, and I'll get back to the flow of things here. I've spent about $1,200 in ads and $1,500 in packs, BTC packs, and to date I've created over half a Bitcoin. So right now that's valued at it's about 17,000. So what is that? 8,500. So he's way over what he put in. with no more of my money. I now have over 100 packs. He started with 25. He now has 100. 75 of the packs that are now working for him, he didn't have to buy. I have 107 directs and 159 teams, so his team's growing. So this gets into the commission side. This is different. This is a different strategy, but I just want people to understand. And by the way, he's going to keep growing. He can turn off his ads right now. It just keeps, his team will keep growing. Everything will keep growing. I'll talk about that's commission side. We'll talk about that on another day. I'll get into it a little bit more today. You don't have to do that. I just want you to understand. And here's Robin talking about one as well. Today I woke up to over $830 in commissions. That's paid in Bitcoin. And then after rebuying a bunch more packs, because she wants to get them working for her, I received more commissions. I'm not going to go into this, but she's extremely excited. She's doing extremely well, as are hundreds of people that are using our system. That's the commission side. I'm going to talk about that on another day, on another call next week. I'm going to put the replay. I got lots more here for you guys. Try to stay here because this gets better. This gets better, and I don't want skeptical minds like I had. And I had a skeptical mind, but I didn't let that stop me. I don't want a skeptical mind to not take advantage of this. I want to get into that next. So you don't not take a step forward to figure out this is real, this is long-term, this is an opportunity of a lifetime, as far away from the cliche as you can get. I'm going to get into that next, but I just want you to know that after I put this replay out, we're going to take it down after a few days, and because I want to move on to the next chapter of this whole thing. It's a lot to move through to help people change their lives, if it's real. The next thing I want to get into next week is the system, the educational system that we set up that's allowing people to tap into the commission side to get paid in Bitcoin by expanding your team, by educating people about all of this, about Bitcoin. We have a system that's automated that does all of that. I'm going to talk about that next week for those that want to seize that. Now, you don't have to, but it's a whole nother additional way to generate Bitcoin. And why not? I'm going to talk about Manatech here. If you don't like network marketing or MLM, I get it. I didn't either. And in most cases, I don't. But I did, I think this, as we talk about my 20-year background in business and I run through this, I think it's going to help you understand what's really going on and prevent some of you from missing out on an opportunity of a lifetime because of preconceived notions. I understand. I totally do. I've only been involved with 2 network marketing companies that I recall in over 20 years, even though it's where I started. And I think understanding where I started, how I was able to assess that this first company, Manatech, was going to do so well, and look at where they're at now. We looked at how they did that and see how parallel that is to USI. And look at how did I assess that USI was going to be a viable, successful business model long term. And you can match that up if you want to with what makes sense to you. But at least sit tight and get that part of it, because I think really there's so much profit here and everything. I think it's natural for people to think, oh, it's too good to be true. I mean, I did. I just don't want that to be what stops you. It's just, and again, I got to keep reiterating as I get into this, you can start with something very, very small and learn as you go. Like, don't get an analysis paralysis. Start with something that's safe to you, and you learn and you get it and you start asking better questions. Okay, and you get circled with people who know the little nuances, little details of what's going on, what the company's doing that you really can't get if you're not plugged in. But let me go into my background and what really put me in a position to be able to assess this. Let me share with you how I assessed it. Then we'll talk about what's coming next for those of you who want to really capitalize in a bigger way than even what I just shared, because there, as I talked about, are some incredible additional opportunities to plug into the educational system that we're using to help get the word out and educate people about all this, be at the front line, kind of take a leadership role. You don't have to be a strong communicator or anything, because you can use our system that's automated, but to be involved in that level can allow you to earn commissions, and then you're generating massive, massive Bitcoin. So a little of my 20-year background in business. I got started in 1994 in my early 20s with a company called Manatech. It was the first network marketing company I ever heard of. And they had isolated the functional component of aloe vera, meaning when you pick the leaf of the aloe vera plant, there's all these products, right, that say with aloe, like suntan lotion and everything else. They had explained, and quite accurately upon further research on my end at the time, that when you pick the aloe leaf, there's an enzyme that deactivates the functional component that gives aloe the healing properties that the fresh gel has. And a pharmaceutical company called Carrington Labs had deactivated that enzyme, and so their product was the only product on the market that actually could be on the shelves or in a product and have the healing properties of aloe. And I was like, this is crazy. Like, if you have the patent basically on the healing properties of aloe, that's quite a market. And I was very young and green behind the ears, so a lot of people around me were saying, oh, it's a scam. If it's network marketing, it's a scam. And they had just started, so they looked kind of seedy. You know, there were a million things to poke at and a million reasons to say why it would fail and a million reasons, what sounded legitimate to an analytical mind, to be extremely cautious and to not put all your eggs in that basket and all that stuff. Yet, there are some things that I'm going to talk about that allowed me to know that it was going to be big. And while it didn't become as big as I had hoped, it became big, very, very big. And I was able to springboard a wealthy, lucrative career out of what I learned and what I gained and what I built with this company. And to show and establish in a quick sort of way just how successful they became. You know, again, remember when they started, they were, looked kind of seedy. All kinds of people could point out, well, look at, you know, where they're registered and look at their P.O. box and you know, looks like they're working out of their garage. You know, they just moved into that place. It looks real seedy, like all this stuff. Even as they started to grow, they just looked like they weren't going to make it. But there were some things that allowed me to know that they would make it. And now I see here, I just looked them up real quick. In 2016, they did 180 million that year. They've sold billions since those days. And they became one of the top leaders in the nutraceutical industry. They're on NASDAQ. They're a publicly traded company. Now, 98% of all network marketing companies fail in the first 2 years. I joined up with them in their second month. So was it luck? No, it wasn't luck that allowed me to know that they were the real deal. I'm attracted to value. I'm attracted to people who are making a valuable contribution in the world. That's how you know if something is a Ponzi or not. That's how you know if something is a scheme or not. And so the questions I was asking are, what are they doing to bring value to the market? What are they doing that differentiates themselves from other people? What backgrounds do they have that allows them to have the knowledge base to pull this off? Same kinds of questions I was asking about USI. It's not rocket science. For some reason, some people have the analytical part without going into analysis paralysis. I mean, I could have got lost in all those questions and been froze up and not taken action and not been able to develop this incredible career that I did launching with them had I gotten stuck in the analysis. I asked enough questions and saw the evidence to know at some point this is the real deal. The other big indicator, which I'll talk about with USI that they're doing as well, is their commitment to compliance. Manatech was very committed to compliance and regulation, regulatory authority, and they discussed it all the time, as does USI. That's a big piece. In a developing industry, and back then both the network marketing industry was under a lot of scrutiny, but so was the nutritional supplement industry. At that time, there was something called the Dietary Supplement Health and Education Act, the DSHEA, that got passed through Congress, and they was trying to set it up so that all nutritional supplements had to be prescribed from a doctor and gotten at the pharmacy, even vitamin C. That's what they almost did. But there was a big uproar, and Manatech helped lead that and have these huge amount of write-ins to senators and congressmen, and it reversed all of that. They were taking a leadership role. They were investing into their legal team, and they were being transparent and openly talking about that. That was one of the biggest reasons why I knew they were serious and here to stay and looking at building value and being here long term. And it's exactly what USI is doing. It isn't rocket science. There's a number of things that anyone could have pointed at and did to say that Manatech was going to fail, and yet I knew that they wouldn't. I knew they would be a publicly traded company. I knew they would be a dominant leader in the nutritional market, and they are 20 years later. And it's the same thing with USI. I'm measuring it by the same measuring stick, the same standards, and it's just dang obvious. I'm going to talk a little bit about that today, and those who can join me on the TechCoin call, I'll go even deeper into it, but today I'll talk about some of it that they're doing that makes it obvious. Anyway, so 1994, 2001, I was with them. I developed a very successful business. Then I started to go into developing marketing systems. I developed a marketing system for an entire company. We did extremely well with that. It was only a few years later that I moved away from the network marketing industry entirely And I was training people how to market, how to generate leads, how to build systems to market anything, any business, any product. And I remember in 2009, I had my first, it's kind of a big deal for marketers, my first $1 million day launch. It's where you build something, you launch it, and $1 million comes in. It seems like peanuts today, but at the time it was a major, major deal. Then in 2012 to 2017, I was a business development consultant, and I was really trying to move into meaningful businesses. I was just really looking for people that I felt were here to make a difference, and their heart was really in the right place, and was very particular about who I brought in. But it got to the point, I had a health challenge. I had and still have a tumor that they say if they operate on, I won't be the same. So we're hoping that, it's slow growing, so we're hoping we won't have to. And I knew, I go, you know what? I can't work like I am. It's time to take care of me. Because for those 5 years, these last 5 years, I really was giving, and to an audience that really didn't understand the value of what I was giving, and I was okay with that because they were heart-centered people and all that. But it got to the point where I realized I was working too hard for people that really couldn't fully appreciate, my background and everything. And it was time to take care of me with my health challenges, and I got 2 kids and all kinds of things. So. I was bringing about $50,000 a month in with the business, but I was spending about $50,000 a month on the business. And so it was time to do something different. And it was time to retire. And I didn't really, because I had so much confidence in my skills, I never really saved a lot of money. I made millions, but I never saved a lot. I always invested a lot into my ideas and just didn't worry about that. But after I got this diagnosis, I was very concerned. And this is just a few months ago. And it was time to take care of me. And I said, I've got to retire now. I need to make millions. I need to fly around the world to find the right surgeon. Apparently there's some in Asia somewhere. I don't know where. But that's what my neurosurgeon said, who can operate on this thing better than they can here. I'm going to have to pay all for it out of pocket. I'm going to have to meet with specialists all over the world and try, obviously, natural remedies, but I need to meet these surgeons too. It's going to cost me a friggin' fortune. It's going to take a massive amount of time. And I hadn't had anything saved. I got 2 kids who are going to go into college soon. I need to get serious. And so day and night, I sat down with all my skills. I started studying the cryptocurrency industry because I knew that was probably where it was. And for the first time in 10 years, I decided to put my focus on making money again. It hadn't been there for a long time. After I had the success I had before, I didn't care about making money. I wanted to help other people do something important. It came time to make money again. Had a lot of confidence, but it's still scary when you got all that stuff adding up. It needed to be something that was going to stick. It needed to be something that was going to be real. So I just kept asking myself, how can I grow Bitcoin? I don't have enough money to buy enough Bitcoin to have that change my life fast. I need millions of dollars. I need it now. I need enough to cover the taxes that you have to pay when you make that much. Been through that road a lot. You can make $1 million and not end up with very much. I needed to cost me very little to build this business. And I got my reputation on the line, so it needs to be as important and as valid as anything I've ever done. I'm not going to compromise that. And so I went to work. First, I started trading cryptocurrencies. I believe you learn by doing. I knew that wasn't going to be probably where I did it, but it was going to teach me. And it's following the principles of Think and Grow Rich. For those who haven't read that book, it works. And, within a matter of a month or so, I started finding these opportunities to grow Bitcoin and generate Bitcoin. I started studying them. They all look like schemes and scams. And guess what? Most of them were. Just like in the network marketing industry in the 90s, most network marketing companies, even nutritional network marketings, were scams and schemes. Absolutely. Before the FTC cracked down, and most of them were scams and schemes and Ponzi's. But I knew Manatech wasn't. And I also knew that in developing industries, that's the way it is. And the people who can recognize the difference are the ones who succeed and do well. And so I applied the same scrutiny that I did to Manatech. Asked the same questions. What value are they bringing? What differentiates them? What knowledge, background, experience, expertise do they have to be able to accomplish this? Where are their intentions? Is it short term? I'm looking at indicators. I'm looking at things that they're doing to figure out the investment. Is it there? Are they talking about diversification? Are they on the take? How do I know? These are the questions I was asking. I got to be honest, when I first ran into USI, I assumed that they were a scheme, but I don't stop there. The first thing that was different was I saw that they were available. It's kind of the third thing on the list. It's what comes to mind. The first thing that caused me to look closely was all the other schemes and scams, 99% of them, you didn't even know who the owners were. And I was like, well, that's interesting. Maybe they're really doing it. Maybe they really have the know-how and expertise to do what they're saying that they're doing, and it's not just a story. So that was the first thing, and I went and I met them, and I studied the heck out of the things that they were saying. One of the first things that I learned as I started researching it was their commitment to compliance and regulatory authority. That's huge in a new environment. They talked about it. They talked about the challenges. They talked transparently and openly, just like Manatech did, about the hurdles they've got to overcome. They even talked about what they were doing wrong that they had to change. Schemers don't talk about what they're doing wrong and what they have to change. Schemers don't invest their time and energy into changing their business model because they just found out and openly share that what they were doing is too risky regulatory-wise. So that was the first big thing, was that commitment and that transparency, just like Manatech was doing. Schemers have a certain on-the-take trail, breadcrumbs that they leave. It's just obvious if you look. And people that are building value, people who are serious about building a real business that's sustainable, have a different set of breadcrumbs and a commitment that's consistent to compliance and regulatory authority, and talking about those challenges openly, constantly, and having a legal team, and then making changes to accommodate what they're learning is key. No other company that I researched actually did that. There might be others out there, but I haven't found any other company that's doing that like Manatech did. Now, to me, this is no-brainer stuff. But for whatever reason, it's not no-brainer stuff to everybody, and I think it's really important for us to go over this. So their commitment to compliance, their transparency and open dialogue on the subject, their leaders were accessible and available, and I went to meet them in Seattle, and I went to meet them again in London. Their response to trolls. There was an article that really concerned me, and now it just miffs me when people send it to me because then I have to address it. Somebody named Ethan Vanderbilt writes the scathing article about USI, and there's others on YouTube and so forth, just making stuff up. Now I know what's going on, so I can tell they're just making stuff up. At the time, though, it scared me as I'm coming across this stuff. And now everybody has this stuff, and I remember back to my Manatech days, there was tons of negative crap on Manatech that I knew wasn't true, but it sounds really bad when you read about it. Every developing industry has a few superstar companies in the internet, in nutrition in the 90s, and network marketing back then, and here. And there's just a handful, about maybe 2% of them at this early stage, that are what they say they are. And again, it's easy to spot them, but still, when I came across the negative stuff, it's scary. These companies always have this negative stuff because that's how the bloggers and the YouTubers build their lists and sell their stuff. You know, a company is doing really well, like Manatech was, they talk negatively about it and would build their audience up, and then they'd sell their thing. It's a negative way to market. It's commonly known to marketers. When I saw Ethan Vanderbilt's article, I was concerned. And then almost immediately, the company responded by hiring a Chicago-based law firm that's been in business for decades, very reputable law firm, to do a legal review of the entire company. This is a couple months ago. This is before I decided to get involved. And it was very thorough on FTC, FCC, SEC compliance. And by the way, as it says, doesn't have to be SEC compliant because it's not a security. But they make sure it's not a security, and they got a legal team in constant communication with the SEC to make sure they do everything properly. They have an attorney that they hired to work with the FTC and FCC to make sure they were compliant with the FTC and FCC in the United States, Canada, all the countries. By the way, it is a security in Malaysia. I believe it's Malaysia, or is it Philippines? There are some countries where it is a security. They can't get around that, and so they are compliant in those countries as a security. They described all this. They talked about all of this, and they hired a legal team to provide a review saying this is a legal model, and they put the law firm's name behind it. To invest the time, the energy to do that, you start to realize this is different. And those were the early signs of understanding that this was different. But then it went further. After I started to get involved, almost immediately I started to see their investment into long-term business development, just like Manatech did. They're looking further out, and they're investing. They just made a $70 million investment into mining equipment. And by the way, a bunch of people said, oh, that's not true. A bunch of YouTubers that really know about mining. I didn't know a lot about this coming into it, and a lot of you might not either. But a lot of people who know a lot about mining, they started coming in saying, oh, it's a lie. It's all BS. They're not mining. And this little image down here, and I'll show you it a little more closely, shows that they are mining now. They've just started mining. They made the investment recently. They made the announcement, $70 million. They want to be a dominant player in the mining industry. And now they're number 11 in the world for mining Ethereum, and it's proven. It's on the blockchain, and Bitcoin's coming next. So all the naysayers can bury their heads in the sand. They are investing. I'm talking about more how they're investing into long-term business development, and it's proven. It's becoming more and more proven every day. There's going to be some major announcements made on December 20th in London at a major event coming up in about a week, where they're going to talk about new developments that they have coming out to show further transparency of how they're making their profits, so we can log into the USI site. They've talked about this coming. It's coming now. And you can log in and you can see how they're profiting from the mining and all these kinds of details of how the profits are being generated. They're continually investing and developing. You don't do that unless you're going to build a long-term viable business. They are continually investing. I'm going to talk a little bit more in a minute about that, of what they're doing. And again, the call that I'm going to do on tokens and the value behind this company that makes the token so valuable, I'm going to go deeper into it. But I'm going to go in a little bit more on that today because I think it's important. They're continually investing in a market position, clean energy. They're driving the costs of mining way down by investing massively into energy that's produced by magnets and also hydro power to get the cost of electricity way down, because that gives you a massive edge. But also they're going to be branding their tech coin as a socially, conscious brand, because a lot of people worry about mining because using so much electricity. They're gaining a massive market advantage in terms of cutting the cost of electricity way down by having clean energy. And they're going to be branding the value of the tech coin with that, which is really important with coins. And again, I'll talk about that more on the next call. You don't do this stuff if you're a scheme. They also are coming out with 1.5 million ATMs. They had some of them at the event in London. We could see it being used. You can put money in and immediately have Bitcoin. It's branded USI Tech. It's USI Tech machines. They're going to be putting 1.5 million of them around the world to promote USI Tech, and it's part of their ecosystem. They're going to make it so you don't even need a bank. You're going to be able to have a credit card or a debit card that you can use anywhere, like the one I'm using now that's called BitPay. USI is coming out with one, and you'll be able to spend your Bitcoin that's in the account, so you don't even need a bank anymore if you don't need one. A lot of people can't get a bank or don't want to mess with a bank. They're setting up this entire ecosystem with their own exchange, their own blockchain, and their own card that you can use, and a way to generate Bitcoin. It's insane. They are leading the industry and making these investments. Again, Ponzi's don't create value. Ponzi's do not create value anywhere close to this scale. They don't make those investments. Ponzi's are on the take. This company is developing. They are leading. And if you look with even one eye open and even squinted, it's obvious. It's absolutely obvious. Now, again, I'm going to have another call that goes into this in more detail, but here's proof on the Ether chain that they are 11th already, and they just entered the scene to be the 11th largest Ethereum miner in the world. That, very early, just entering the market, tells you they are absolutely making the investments that they said that they did. Also, when we were in the event, here's a multi-billionaire that they brought on board. Multi-billionaires who are famously known for raising capital, for developing major companies, that have strong reputations, that have never been involved with network marketing before, don't come in and partner with a company like this if it's a Ponzi. It just doesn't happen. And here he was presenting to us for quite extensively the science behind the hydrogen electric generator that's going to position USI to dominate in the mining industry. There'll be lots more coming out on that, and I'll talk more about all of that when I talk about the tech coin, because this is really what puts the value behind the tech coin. So they're coming out with their own tech coin. In fact, it's out now. It's in pre-sale. I've purchased 300,000 personally, and I'm going to purchase more because I believe this is going to be what really sets me and my family up for generations to come. The BTC packages are where you should put your focus first, but you should definitely join me next week to learn about the tech coin more than I have time to share today. And I'll go into more detail about all the things I just touched upon that establishes that they have an incredible position in the marketplace and are making the necessary investments. So I want to talk about a few other things, exactly how you can get started at a low or no risk. You have both options. I touched upon them. I want to be really clear. You can get started at a low risk by plugging in to our automated educational system and start developing commission Bitcoin payouts. And I'll show you what I've been able to accomplish with that. Again, not that that's what you're going to make. Your results are based on what you produce and put into it. But on another call, I will share with you what others are, what results they're getting from the educational system and the amount of Bitcoin that they're making. And it is phenomenal. It's what my background is. I know how to create systems, and it is working very, very well. So I would consider that very low risk based on the results we're getting, which I'll share in another call. Or you can participate the way I mostly focused on today with, no risk. No risk, you could have no financial risk. You could literally choose to come in and build a team and not buy anything and get commissions in Bitcoin. And I know people who literally wanted to prove that they could do it, came in, didn't invest into ads, didn't invest into anything, just referred people and didn't buy any BTC packages, got paid in Bitcoin with commissions, and then used that to buy the packages. And without any money out of pocket, they're now generating significant Bitcoin. So that's no risk without even buying BTC packages if you don't want to put any of your own money into it. I get emails from people saying, I don't have any money to invest. Leave me alone. And I respond back, well, you can invest then a little bit of time to learn that you don't even need to. You don't even need to invest any of your own money and do extremely well, as many are here. Or if you don't want to refer anybody, you can get involved with no risk in terms of risking your time, and then you can just very low risk in terms of buying one BTC package for $60 and see the return on capital. Whereas I started with about 25 in total. I bought a couple times my first day and got 25 BTC packages and got them working for me and kind of learned as I went along. For me, that was low risk to test it out. For you, it might be $60. You need about $65 because there's transaction fees your first time till you learn about the cheaper ways to do it. As you go, we educate you on all this stuff, but maybe start with $65 worth of Bitcoin. That's very low risk. Get a BTC package, see it at work. See how the compounding works. Set up on Rebuy, learn, start asking better questions because you will when you see that at work. But low risk, no risk, investing your money, not investing your money, you can get started any way you want. And that was one of the reasons why I was excited about this. Because no matter where you're starting from, you can take advantage in a major way and compound and get paid in Bitcoin and get more and more and more Bitcoin coming to you, which for many of you, as it was for me, it's your only way to get a lot of Bitcoin. You've got to find leverage. You got to be smart. And with leveraging their Autobot trading software and the moment in time that we're in right now and this incredible company and the resources that are here and the people that are here to help you, this is a very serious way to generate a lot of Bitcoin. And it's the only way to be able to set you and your family up for life in any major significant way quickly, unless you have millions of dollars to invest in cryptocurrency. You don't need to here. I want to talk a little bit more exactly how I generated over 70 Bitcoin in about 3 months. And it gets into the commission side. And while I definitely want to make sure it's clear, you should not expect the same results. I worked extremely hard. I was very motivated. I had a friggin' tumor growing out of my neck. And I needed to make a lot of money really fast. I don't expect you to do that. But you need to take into consideration that I created a system, same system I'm using, same system hundreds of people are now using very successfully, which I'll share with you on another call. With that system, you can get incredible results based on where you're starting from. And I talk about the details of that in another call. So I'm going to put today's webinar out, and then I'm going to close it off after about 3 or 4 days, or maybe a few more days than that, next week, because then we need to close the chapter on this topic and move on to the next topic, which is going to be that educational system. I mean, tonight is really enough for you guys to try a BTC package, or for those that can afford it like I did, try 25 BTC packages, 1, 25, whatever. $60 if that's where you got to start from, $65. and get it working for you. So I'm going to close the chapter on this after this replays out for a while and move on to where my heart is, which is really helping people build wealth that are really, know that it's time, like it was for me. It was time to take care of me and my family financially. It was time to just get it done. And I have 70 Bitcoin in 3 months. Let me get out the calculator. I mean, this is what getting serious in the right time can do. 70 times 17,000. I've made $1,190,000 if I cash that out. But it's growing. I want to get to 2.5 Bitcoin a day, which is well over $1 million a month. I want to set me and my family up for life for generations. I want to be able to fly around and meet surgeons if it can fly first class and not have to worry about it, take care of myself. I don't know what you want for you and your family, but I want to make it really, really clear. If you show up on my next call and you learn about the educational system I set up, after 20 years of experience being very successful with marketing, I know how to build systems. And I think they're effective because I don't get involved with something and I don't get behind something unless it's valid, unless it has a lot of value, and that comes across. And so you can tap into that because not all of you are great presenters. Not all of you have dedicated your lives to being able to figure this stuff out. So do join me on that call to learn how to get Bitcoin commissions, which is another strategy that I didn't really get into today, which is where more significant, crazy returns can come because you're tied in with me. I mean, quite frankly, because you get to use my system, the same one that I'm using. So there's no question that even though your results may be different from mine, because I'm kind of crazy when I get really focused, you don't need to generate over $1 million in 3 months to be happy. So of course your results probably aren't going to be like mine unless you're really, really intense, or you're really motivated like I was. But regardless, I'm going to show you on that call how you can generate more gains. I am absolutely 1,000 times percent convinced more gains here than anywhere else using that system. So stay tuned for that. And I'm also going to talk about how you can generate Bitcoin by developing a team with that, which is the commission side. And again, I already hit this. I want you to know you don't have to refer anybody. I talked today about how you can get the return on capital. You can tap into the either the compounding strategy or just make 40% extra Bitcoin if you just want to get in and get out. I encourage you to at least do the compounding strategy and just you can really set yourself up big and your family up for life just with that without referring anybody. I covered that today just by getting BTC packages and getting them working for you. But again, I do encourage you to get on my call next week if you want to learn how you can duplicate what we're doing with our system. And again, even though my results are not typical, there are hundreds of people using the system doing extraordinarily well. I'm going to share that with you and how it all works. Next steps, test out the BTC packs. Don't get stuck in analysis paralysis. Yeah, you're going to run into negativity out there, just like people did with Manatech. Don't get caught up in that crap. Again, look at what I'm suggesting. Look, are they building value? What are they doing to build value? What is their background and knowledge? Look for people who can answer those questions, and you'll know what is really going on. In Manatech, everyone had advice for me. Everyone told me that it wasn't going to work. Everyone gave me 1,000 reasons why I shouldn't follow Sam Castor, the leader of that company, because his previous company had been shut down by the FCC, I think it was, the FTC, because he was selling solar panels previous to that. And he got in trouble. The company got in trouble and shut down because, this is back in the 80s, because when they were selling their solar panels, people were claiming that it saved them more energy than it really did. That kind of crap sounds really bad when you focus in on it. But I later met Sam Castor, an amazing person, absolutely amazing. Here was a billionaire I was able to meet and call when I wanted to just because he was that kind of person. And I started to realize, he must not be that bad. And I started to realize, maybe those energy companies or maybe the electricity companies and the coal companies didn't like these solar panel companies coming in back in the 80s, and they were buying them all up and getting them all shut down. Maybe there's other things going on. We need to look at the reality. The reality was when I met Sam Castor, he was focusing on building value, on compliance, on regulatory compliance. He had learned his lessons there with the FTC, and they had built a company that's here today after 20 years that sold billions of dollars, made a difference in people's lives, educated a lot of people, brought a product to market that was awesome, and now they're on NASDAQ and they've been here for 20 years. I'm able to tell you, based on the experience that I've had, that regardless of anything else, this company is going to be here for many, 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 many years to come. They will be a dominant leader. They already are, and if you attend my next call, that's going to be more clear because I'm going to go into that in more detail. So test the BTC packs. Don't get lost in analysis paralysis and all this other stuff. It's not that complicated. Get the return on capital. Start getting the compounding working. Don't have to refer anybody if you don't want to. Check for an email titled Bitcoin Fast Pass. As soon as this ends, the person who referred you is going to send that email to you. If you found this webinar some other way, like through an ad that I did or whatever, no one's tied to you, then you're going to have to find us. We have a group that you can find, but you got to start with the person who referred you because they're the ones that can give you all the answers you're looking for. So start with your email, and if you found us from email or from someone you got on our list, and that's how you found out about the call, you're going to see an email in your email box sometime tonight that says Bitcoin Fast Pass. Is going to give you your next steps to get plugged in. And I'm just saying, keep it simple. Like, go in, get some BTC packs, something you're comfortable with, start getting the return on capital, and ask questions to the person who reaches out to you. But again, don't get stuck in analysis paralysis. It's not that complicated. And again, next week, I'm going to do a webinar that talks about this system that I created that's working phenomenally well that allows you to tap in to building the commissions. And just real quick, again, when I show this to you, I want to be really vividly clear. This is like my USI back office. This has nothing to do with what you're going to make. Had nothing to do with that. What I'm showing it to you for is to show you what I've been able to do with it, which proves that I know what I'm talking about. It shows you that I know how to make it happen. That's all. Your results are going to be dependent, obviously, on what you put into it. And honestly, I would be very, very surprised. In fact, from what I understand, I'm the fastest growing in the company because of the system and the knowledge that I have. But you can tap into that and do extremely well. And I'm going to show you on the next call what others are doing. But I just want to show you what I've accomplished so you understand the magnitude of what the knowledge, how valuable that it can be. So my available balance now, this is just from today, 1.7 Bitcoin. In fact, if I hit refresh, I'd probably have to log in again, but I'm sure it's grown. I've been able to build this up to 5,000 BTC packages, a lot of it through the rebuy. I should tell you, I did put in $60,000 of my own money. It took me a month to build up the confidence to do that after I met the owners and everything, after I saw the investments they were making, saw what they were doing with regulatory compliance. I sold stock and I bought $60,000 worth of BTC packages that helped boost this up. But right now, 5,000 packages is way more than that. I mean, I put $60,000 of my own money in. But let's look at what this is worth. 5,111 times 60, because they're about $60 each. $306,000 in here right now. I only put 60 grand in, and I've taken way more out. Let me show you that. I might have to log back in. A lot of people are like, well, can you withdraw it? Yeah, of course you can withdraw it. Look at all this Bitcoin that I've withdrew. It's insane. I would have never dreamed that I could accomplish this fast. I thought it would take me about 6 months to do what I've been able to do in 3 months. But look, like, is that yesterday? What's today? It says today, but it's because there are time zones ahead. So this was yesterday, well over a Bitcoin. Day before that, well over a Bitcoin. These are all withdrawals. Day before that, well over a Bitcoin. I've withdrawn hundreds of thousands of dollars of Bitcoin. Now, some of that I used to buy the diamond packages, but a lot of this I used to pay bills. So, yeah, you can withdraw easily. I encourage you first to start with, and you see it's grown from 0.72 to 0.79. Just in the last hour or so. I encourage you to do the rebuy first because I had on 100% rebuy. I kept rebuying it first to build this up as fast as I could. And it works. I'll have other calls, and we have some videos that you can ask for that show you what all these numbers mean. But what I wanted to show you right now is lifetime commissions, this second line here. This is what I'm going to be talking about next week, how to get lifetime commissions. And again, when I show you my numbers, I do not want you thinking, oh, that means that's what you're going to make. Like, that would be insane if everybody could come in and make $1 million in 3 months. I have unique knowledge. I worked my tail off the first 2 months. But what you do have is the same system I use, and I'm going to be showing you that system in that call. I'm going to be explaining how the commissions work, how you can generate loads of Bitcoin by helping educate others, not just about USI, but about Bitcoin. And it automates all this, helping them get their own Bitcoin. It's very educational. It's very value-driven. And you can tap into that and do what we're doing to tap into a system that works. I'm going to show you hundreds of people that are using it, give you lots of examples of successes that we're having beyond just me. I do have another family account for those of you who have loved ones that you want to help. I tied a family member up with this system. And then just today, 0.1 Bitcoin, that's $1,700. And in fact, I bought some packages already because she's still on 100% rebuy. So if I hit refresh, this would disappear. But you've got this rebuy that automatically is rebuying, so it's on autopilot. Hers is on autopilot. And she's using the educational system to grow this, and 2,000 packages. So it's not just me. I'm telling you, I'm going to share with you lots of examples of, and you can see 300,000 tokens. I'll talk about the tokens as well next week in another call. I have 2 more calls coming. I'm going to talk about how you can generate commissions, tons of Bitcoin through using our educational system, and how simple that would be to set up. So look for an email on that. Again, look for an email tonight that says Bitcoin Fast Pass in the subject line so you can take your next step. Just keep taking baby steps, and let's help you grow some Bitcoin. We've been on here a long time. It's a lot to get through, but hopefully I gave you enough to know it's what you should be doing if you want to set you and your family up for life or just better leverage the Bitcoin and cryptocurrency phenomenon. All right, look for an email tonight. Bitcoin Fast Pass will be the subject, and then look for another email from me or them later this weekend, and we'll have the replay out tomorrow. It'll be up for a few days, and then next week I'll do a call on the educational system you guys can all use to get the third strategy that I didn't talk a lot about today, which is the commissions. Generate Bitcoin using that. All right, guys, I will see you soon. Have a great evening. Good night, everybody.